The Institute of Leadership and Management recognises great leadership as being multidimensional. We identify 5 dimensions: authenticity, vision, achievement, ownership and collaboration. We've broken down those 5 dimensions into 49 components, which enable us to organise our resources in such a way as to help individuals access the leadership development that is immediately relevant to them. This video introduces empowering, part of the dimension of ownership.
Hello, my name's Kate Cooper. I'm Head of Research Policy and Standards at the Institute of Leadership and Management, and I'm going to talk to you now about empowering. We hear so much about empowering and engagement, so what I'd like to do is explain what that means for us at the Institute. So we have empowerment, we have engagement, we have delegation. Why are all these things so important? Because leaders demonstrate ownership essentially by delegating appropriately. And if you get delegation right, and you're aware of the need to empower the people around you, to engage them in what's going on, you are managing performance really well. You're not only taking ownership for your success, but you're also helping others take ownership for their success as well. So what is empowerment? Well, we all think we have an idea probably of what that means. But if we look at this diagram here, adapted from Heathfield, we'll see that there right at the top is this important need to value people, to value the contribution that they're making to the organisation. And people are going to make their best contribution where they share the vision of the organisation. They understand the goals, and the goals are meaningful for them as well. So articulating those visions, those goals, an important step in the journey of empowerment. So you need to trust people, sharing information with them and trusting them to understand the information, to want to join that journey of empowerment and believe in the shared vision of the organisation. So you're not delegating just tasks, you're not giving somebody a to-do list of jobs that you want done. You're actually saying to people, how do you want to do the job that you have to do? How will you be able to do your best work? And that's where listening to what people have to tell you about their idea of the vision, their understanding of the goals is so important, because it helps adjust your understanding. And together with so many things in organisation, it's not one person's vision that's being imposed on somebody else. These solutions, the ways we work, are co-created. So feedback, very, very important in any sort of delegation activity. You want people to bring problems to you, but you don't want to solve them for them. And that, I think, is a real important fundamental of empowerment. So have coaching conversations, perhaps. Instead of rushing to a solution, have the time, listen to how people are describing their problems, and then offer guidance, perhaps. But so often, especially when we're close to something, if we step back for a few minutes and think about what the problem is and listen to somebody who cares and is interested in the problem, we can arrive at our own solutions. And when that happens, reward and recognise that terrific empowered behaviour. So what do empowering leaders actually do? Well, we've talked there about delegating not just a list of tasks, but that important responsibility for undertaking your job. And they facilitate people in order to deliver that, as I've just been explaining. And that's very much a participatory style of leadership. So those old control and command structures, which probably never existed in some of the better organisations anyway. There's a recognition that everybody is a contribution to make and interesting things, important insights to offer. So an empowering leader will definitely be participatory, But also, we'd be thinking about servant leadership as an important philosophy or approach to leaders. With servant leadership, you're not really thinking about yourself as a leader. You're thinking about how can I help this person be the best that they're going to be. So, as in coaching, when it's not all about the coach, it should be all about the coachee. A servant leader is saying, how can I help you do your job? What do you want your job to be? Obviously within the context of the organisational goals and objectives. And some people are lacking in confidence, perhaps lacking in knowledge and understanding. So an empowering leader is always helping, encouraging more learning, more development, more recognition that you never know enough. There's always more to learn, but learning can be really fun and enjoyable, and of course needs time. And that's an important part of empowering leadership, is if you're going to encourage learning and development, then you actually have to make sure that individuals have time to do that. And then they will be confident, they will build their capacity to do more, and that underpins or is part of that entrepreneurial mindset when you're actually looking more strategically at your role and you're thinking quite innovatively about the future, and perhaps presenting quite an idealized version of empowerment. But some of these ideas are so helpful and useful, and you can ask yourself, well, am I encouraging people to be entrepreneurial? Is that what they're doing here? Am I encouraging innovation? Am I encouraging people to look at things differently? Or am I content with the same old, same old? So you have a team and you want to empower them, great relationships with individuals, lots of encouragement about development, that entrepreneurial mindset I've just mentioned. But what about the team? Well, this then gives you a lot of relationships to manage. So you want your team to know that you appreciate them. You want the individual members to know that you appreciate them. And one way, as we've shown here in this diagram, is a sort of transparency. You stick things up on boards, on windows in this case, so people understand what the team's about and absolutely celebrate successes. I don't think there's anything that builds a team better than success. But how, what that success means to the team, you can only really understand it if you actually ask them. Ask people at the same time for their input so they can co-create together what a successful team means to your team, because that will obviously vary from team to team, and the only way you really get insight and understanding is if you all talk about it. An empowered team has to be a trusted team. And you trust people by trusting people. That's the only way you know that you can do it. And we know, going back to very early studies from 50 years ago, managers who behave as though they don't trust their teams actually get the sorts of behaviour that would go with that. Managers that do trust their teams, understand that they're going to do a good job, see their role as helping them that do that good job, are essentially rewarded by the sorts of behaviour that they're looking for. So back to delegation. What is it we're talking about when we delegate? I think so many new managers and much more experienced managers would say, oh, I just don't delegate enough. I know I don't do that, but I don't really know how to delegate more. So what we're actually doing with delegation is saying to somebody, do something on our behalf. And that our behalf is really important. It's not I'm telling you to do something, it's how are we going to get this job done. So you have to choose the right people. You don't want to overload somebody with delegate something that's so out of their comfort zone that they're going to struggle immediately and have that adverse impact on confidence. But you also don't want to delegate to people who'd find it in a way too easy, or may even think, why are they asking me to do this? I can do more than this. So you have to get that balance right between what we might call a stretch goal and a recognition and understanding of the capability of the person you're delegating to. But that is not always enough. Often we need the resources that help us do a good job. So sometimes you hear people really wanting to do their best. They know they can do it, but they just haven't got access to the organisational resources. It might be other people, it might be budget, it might be meeting rooms, whatever it is that they need in order to be able to really deliver what has been delegated to them. So you want that notion of any sort of delegation is about how we're going to be successful about this. And that is the sort of underlying principle of delegation. We've got a lot to do collectively as a team. How are we going to share that work, share that responsibility in order to deliver what we think is a successful outcome? And quite often it means letting go, and back to that important idea of trust, that somebody is going to do a good job, and the best thing to do often is just to let them get on with it. Of course, be interested. I'm not advocating a laissez-faire approach here, but back off slightly. One of the things, some of the research we did on distributed teams, which of course so many of us are experiencing currently, is the problem of micromanaging. Not only being micromanaged, but managers being fearful that they're becoming micromanagers when they're not seeing that the people that they work with. So we have here a diagram that shows levels of delegation, where you're going from a rather simple, perhaps inexperienced person, and you say, do this for me. Obviously builds confidence. It enables you to encourage people to step through those various levels until you've got to a situation where you can just not even have to worry about something, because you know somebody's got it and that they are going to be able to deliver whatever is needed. But don't think that it stops there, because even when you've got to that sense, those people still need more opportunities for growth and development. And although that's absolute success for you as a manager, when you get to level 5, don't think job done, I never have to worry about delegation again. So why is engagement so important? Why do we hear so much about it? Well, you see here the authors David McLeod and Nita Clark produced a report in 2009. We have an extract from it here about engagement, enabling people to be the best they can be at work, because that's good for everybody. And as this diagram shows, how much is involved with building engagement, but if we just focus on that bottom level of the pyramid, we want to leverage people's strengths so they're able to be great at what they're doing, to be able to find meaning in their work. And meaning will be different for all of us. So we need to ask people about what they find meaningful, and not always assume that if we find something important and meaningful, that every member of our team will as well. It's the talking about it and understanding difference that helps with that, because meaning, working in an organisation where you think that you're making a difference, that you're doing a good job, the work that you're doing matters, enhances well-being, and that sense of well-being is energising. So engagement really starts with those 4 basics, but often we see teams that aren't engaged, and let's look at some of the factors that would impact that. People are not even thinking about engagement, don't think it's important. They're not looking at that bottom level of the pyramid. Perhaps they don't know where to start. Perhaps they're thinking, I've got too many things to worry about without having to start addressing engagement issues. Or sometimes they'll think, oh, it's important now, as with the annual engagement survey, which I'm happy to see are becoming, the trend is for them to becoming shorter and shorter. So is the organisational's leadership the sort that empowers? Is that the messages that are being sent out? Are managers in coaching their teams, talking to them? And we've mentioned stretch goals and a coaching style earlier in the presentation. Are people listened to? And is that really important alignment between what the organisation says about itself and how people in the organisation behave? So that's our understanding of empowerment. Please do have a look at the scorecard, the resources that go with this component, test yourself, and hopefully very soon receive your standard Met badge for empowering.